official. It's official.
What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Regina Bradley, and this is Outkasted Conversations, lucky number 7. And to help us take out World Women's History Month with a bang, I have the one and only, the MC Supreme, Mahogany Jonz. What's going on, ma'am?
What it do? How you doing, sis? I'm so happy to like we said, I see you. I done seen you, like not in real life, but in real life, right?
I seen you. I seen you. You doing good? What's going on?
I'm doing really well, really, really well. Dropped this project Pure, really excited about it, and on the high still from this last week's Hip Hop Ed Chat. My brothers Timothy Jones and Emil Cook are just super inspiring. Like all of y'all inspire me to new levels. Every time I just experience y'all, I'm just like, I need to read a book. Sit down and read a book. No.
Dope, dope. Well, thank you for joining us today. And you got to answer the first question to get, the conversation started. How did you become outcasted?
I became outcasted, I want to say it was about 1993. I was a sophomore in high school. I had just met who is now like longtime best friend. Her name was Quinn, or is Quinn. And I wasn't even like on that. Like I was on some tree hugging hip hop. I was loving De La Soul and Black Sheep. I was just, I was a New Yorker on a different vibe. And we would go over her crib, hang out, and she had this Southern Playalistic. I'm like, yo, what is this, dog? Why you keep banging this? Like, and with it being heavy rotation, trips everywhere, like she just keep playing it. And it kind of grew on me. And I was like, all right, that's what's up. But really it's when AT Aliens dropped. And I was in college around then that really resonated with like me for real. And everything about them, it was just like they were able to do what needed to be done. It was just like they were reaching the hood. It was almost like they had this balance of sugar water. It's like, yo, we still keeping the hood, but let me put you up on game. Like we need to change like elements in the hood, and just everything about them was just like super dope. So that was my first, I guess, introduction, and that's when I became like an official fan. So
That's dope, though. I mean, like, I always like talking to people who not originally from the South, because it's like, I'm real curious about what their intro is. And I mean, like, you being from New York, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, was there hesitancy at first? Because oftentimes when I think about Outkast in New York, I automatically go to the Source Awards and how, and that infamous, the boo and stuff like that. So it's like talking to people who are from there during that time who were like really picking up on hip hop and stuff like that. Like, was Outkast really that different from what you were listening to up in New York? Or I mean, like, what made them stand out?
I think initially what it was, first of all, their genre choice in music. Like we were used to hip hop. We was used to hip hop tapping into jazz. We were used to hip hop tapping into R&B. But what Outkast was doing, tapping into funk, tapping into soul, tapping into different genres of music that, our northern sensibilities were not used to, that was different. You know what I mean? And just even the swang, you know what I mean? It was such a big thing to have an accent. Oh, you sound like you from the country. And that was a bad thing, right? Or you sound like whatever. So for us to kind of get adjusted to that was just like, oh, well, what are they talking about? And I just remember, like, you need to get up, get out, and do something. Can't spend all your time getting high. You know what I'm saying? It was like, oh, this is fresh. Like, and they trying to put me up on game. I'm feeling that. So, yeah, it was a little different. And it's funny, too, because my name Mahogany Jonz, actually was a response to the pimpdom, to the players' ball that we were hearing in their music. Like me and my friends, we were like, well, wait a minute, guys ain't the only ones who could be pimps. We could be pimps too, So we had our own little fake pimp names, and it was crazy. And just that whole idea, even back then, like, okay, I'm feeling what they're saying. I may not necessarily be down with the gender politics of what they spitting, but I still feel them. you
Oh,
know.
that's dope. I didn't
So
know that's where you got your name from. That's hot. That's I'm learning a little something too from this conversation. That's dope. But yo, when you were
yeah.
talking about sensibilities, that really caught my attention
Mhm.
because I do think that that the actual act of listening is a type of sensibility associated with where you're from. And to try to find, an ear to
Mhm.
listen to these like local stories and these local dialects, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying, adds a certain kind of not only uniqueness, but also as a certain kind of swag to, what makes hip hop so unique is that you can have all of these different ideas kind of come together through sound. Um, but when so like you couldn't really think about Outkast without because Sleepy Brown and Organized Noise had
Mhm.
those associations with funk and soul, so that's probably why that went there. But as a woman MC, you know what I'm saying? Like, is there anything aside from your name that you kind of pulled from what was going on with Outkast? Like, are there any other connections between what you got going on now?
Oh, definitely. They just made so many things possible. I even think the fact that me musically, like my music, I don't like the idea of being in a box. And I think when I think of MCs that totally broke that and allowed me to be able to play with and blend different genres of music, allowed me to tell stories full out in detail and to do it in a way where it's like, okay, you might have to take out a dictionary and look up a word or two. I think of Big Boy and Andre immediately, just, and I would get so frustrated because of course the conversations, well, who's the best MC? And everybody wants to pull, back then we'll pull out a Jigga, we'll pull out a Biggie, we'll pull out a Pac. And it's just like, yo, don't sleep on Andre 3000. So for so long, and Big Boy. And I think for so long, for craft wise, they were slept on, but they were doing things with their cadences. They were doing things with where they broke words, how they played with words, that kind of like your manchas and your black thoughts do. The way they stop and pause, and it's
Mhm.
like I had never heard anything like that before. And I remember when I first was learning how to MC, literally listening to them, like studying them, like, oh, okay, well, wow, why they play with it like that? Just the interesting way that it was almost like this stream of conscious thing that would happen, but it was so well thought out, like the way that they played with words. So just as an MC, definitely they did a lot to shape um, my willingness to just kind of step outside the box, to bend the rules till they break and create something different, new, and still say something that means something.
Hmm. So I was talking to Treva Lindsay a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about, literally women's voices in Outkast's work, right? Like you have the orgasmic, and then you have like and then on a couple songs you actually have women actually spitting bars. So I mean, like, what are your thoughts on, if at all, how they made room to have women's voices on in their catalog? Like, what do you feel about that?
Um, I feel half and half about that. I love, I actually watched that and loved, both of you guys' take on it. But I feel like the story that is told, or the role of the women in almost too many Outkast songs, is the predictable.
Mm.
I did like just the Love Below, and kind of how you felt him being honest, being vulnerable. It was almost like this dialogue that was happening kind of in this, we're actually in a for real relationship. So the idea of sexuality being explored in that way, in like an intimate, real way, and not a, oh, you just a hoe, not kind of in like a Jazzy Belle kind of way, not kind of in a Sasha Thumper kind of way, but in a you my woman, and this is how we do kind of way. I appreciated that. I loved Prototype. um I ain't gonna front, I felt the realness of Roses, where he's just like, calling a woman out for thinking she's all that because of what's going on aesthetically. Okay, thank you for just putting it out there. It's women out there who get down like that, and even like in the art of storytelling, I definitely appreciated Dre's verse. And I liked Big Boy's verse too, you know, even though it was like, dang, why she got to be a hoe? But it was like the way he told it was like not in a way of glorifying it, but like, look, this was the reality, but this ain't got to be your reality, you know. Slick Rick's verse, however, left me feeling some kind of way. It was like, oh, word, like I'm just good for you to just drop semen in. That's like my whole existence. Like I deserve to be smacked up. Okay, that's different. I guess I'm supposed to take that. So yeah, so I don't know. I feel I feel halfway. Even with like, hey y'all, you know, like you love the beat. You know what I'm saying? I love what he did. Like I just loved Hey Ya. I love when I see the video Hey Ya. I love that boy. It was so dope. It's so innovative. The way he plays and he pulls out like, you know, things with race and races coming together and what music does. Like I love that. But then when it came to me listening to the story and I'm all drawn in, like, yeah, you know, our parents were able to stay together and they laid the foundation for us. But it's not gonna work for us. Oh, it's not. Oh, since it's not gonna work, you don't want to get to know my mama. You just want to come, what? And then you want me to dance to it. Like I'm just going to shake it like a Polaroid picture. And I'm just feeling that you just going to throw away the whole idea of us having family. The beat is fresh though. Hey, you know what I'm saying? So just, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle. Yeah.
On the one hand, yeah, I agree that, you know, I was talking with Heidi and Treva a couple weeks ago, and we kind of came to the conclusion that in Outkast body of work, there's a little bit more room for complicated ideas of womanhood. But on the flip side of that, you know, is it a scapegoat that the only way to talk about women in hip hop is through this idea of relationships or sexuality? You know what I'm saying? And you know, how do we kind of move away from that, or is that the reason because we're comfortable with thinking about women in these types of boxes? And as a box breaker, what are your thoughts on how to, you know, approach that in hip hop?
I just would like to see more. I would love to see more liberation examples, right? And so Liberation was too short, but Liberation was an example where, you know, Erykah Badu is on this song and, you know, they're speaking about what it will take to come together to actually cause a liberation. And so I would love to see that happen lyrically. You know, I'd love to see them venture out to, you know, it would have been amazing. Imagine like, you know, them doing a duet with like Lauryn Hill, you know, or just a Rhapsody or a Myself, you know, or just, yeah, I would love to see more of that happening. And I think that will help us move away from that, because you're right. It just, the only time we're introduced into the equation is when it's romantic or it's hypersexual, as opposed to like, wow, you know, we have thoughts, we have ideas, we live life, you know, we want to see changes happen. Hey, we're making the changes happening, right along with you. So yeah, I think that is a part of the solution.
I mean, it just kind of irks me, you know what I'm saying, that when we have these conversations about hip hop, and especially in like popular spaces, you know what I'm saying, like that's like the go-to conversation. What if you have an upset chick, you know what I'm saying, or what if you have somebody that's like, yo, can I be pissed off? Can I actually talk about being angry? Shit, I might just be angry at the world. I don't necessarily have to be angry at a man. I mean, like,
yeah, you know. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you got it.
I'm gonna remember my thought. Go ahead.
So I mean, like, you know.
I mean, I thought about like.
You got it.
Okay, I just thought about like even the song Roses. Had it been a female that did Roses, but talking about a man, then we being emotional and we crying. Whereas he does it and it's cool. It's like, yeah, I just, yeah. I think we should have room to be upset and not us being emotional. You know.
So I know that you do ambassador work. I know that you and Tony Blackman do that. Shouts to the foundation. Also, y'all still blew my mind when I saw you all perform. So one question that I have for you also is the way that hip hop integrates these different spaces has shifted. You know what I'm saying? Now you have technology and SoundCloud and social media. What are your thoughts on how that has impacted what we understand hip hop to be?
I think it's been great in the fact that it's definitely expanded the platform, the fact that we're able to use technology to have dialogue like this and it be in the world of forever in YouTube, and scholars and hip hop lovers, and hip hop haters, who may get a new perspective will have access to it. I love that. I'm not, one of the tweets that I got recently was like, man, for you not to be signed, for you to be independent, your imaging is spectacular. Your marketing is no joke. I love that, I can use things like SoundCloud. I can use things like YouTube. And I am, I'm not getting regular rotation on an MTV, right? But that I have a page on MTV, that I am able to tweet out my music video, Facebook my music video, interact and have a connection globally with the fans, that I've been able to connect and make relationships to the different, places I've traveled. Just today, I did a track with somebody in Sudan and was like, was able to hit them up and be like, yo, where's that track at? And they're like, oh, I'm going to email it to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow, like we are not in the same space, not in the same area, but the fact that we have this global connection, and hip hop has so many, again, not to overuse the word, but has so many sensibilities that make it global, that we are actually able to engage it in that way. So I think that's dope. What I don't think is dope is because of when anything gets too accessible, everybody puts their hands on it. And I think the idea of accountability and what it takes to really be valid and do this craft, that gets lost. And so you have people, who are engaging in all the elements of hip hop and who are getting passes, who need not have a pass. Because it's like, you still have work to do. You don't know anything about the culture. You don't understand the reason why, you don't understand what it's birthed from, but because you saw somebody do it on YouTube, because now you think it's cool and trendy, you just want to put your hands on it. And now, certain people get to study, this craft that is, it's our narratives. This is us telling our stories, and not us in necessarily, not us in a colorway, right? But us as in people who are disenfranchised, people who are marginalized, telling their story, and then people who are not get to take it up for hobby, have fun, and they suck. But they have this whole audience to do it in front of. So it's good, and then, it's not so good.
I mean, do you think that, the when you talked about access, it also made me think about the particular type of narratives that are available in these digital spaces, like, you can listen to Jean Grey and Angel Hayes. You know what I'm saying? Like you have these spaces available for women who actually rhyme to talk about their experiences. And then when you're talking about, not being signed to a major label, it made me think about, is being independent a way to be able to talk about your experiences and your craft in a way that you feel is best reflective of women, in ways that's not available in if you were in a contract with a label somewhere?
Oh, definitely. I think, when me and my team, when we sit down and we think about, okay, are we going to pursue that route? And, sometimes I get a little weary and think like, yeah, that's the way to go. But my producer's always a champion and saying like, no, we got this, we can do this, we can say and do things that we wouldn't have the freedom to do if you sign tomorrow. A machine is going to, throw you in the, make you another clog in it, and, cookie cutter you, and you will have to say and do certain things. You will have to come out with projects that meet the quota of what is catchy, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just able to be 100, in ways that I don't think if I was in a machine. Like, even with this Project Pure, we're talking about overcoming sexual molestation. We're talking about, overcoming rape. We're talking about overcoming domestic violence. On one album, I'm sure a record label would have shut it down. We'd be like, we'll do one cause song. But now, okay, we're talking about real issues. We're gonna have to shut that down. You're doing a little bit too much. Okay, you're gonna take off a little bit more clothes. Okay, we need some more of that. So yeah, definitely. I think it gives us agency in ways that we wouldn't. I think we would have to succumb to the strategy of some of our peers that are assigned to majors.
So how are you specifically using hip hop to further the cause? You know what I'm saying? Whatever the cause may be for you. I know you've done a lot of traveling. You've been the 106 in Park. You was a 4-time champ. I remember seeing you on there. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, on the one side, hip hop is this vessel of entertainment and awareness, but on the other side of that, there's also this ode to responsibility to these disenfranchised communities that you're talking about. So how do you blend the two together? Because I mean, I've heard your work and I'm a fan, and you can have fun, but at the same time, you also balance that with these serious and must-have conversations using hip hop. So how do you blend the two together?
I think I've been a little bit on the left side as far as being very intentional about telling stories that cause conversations that we need to have, and I'm looking forward to this next project that I do, or just kind of being in the middle, because that's one thing that I have to say about Outkast that I really love and appreciate is that they're Jekyll and Hyde kind of, and I don't want to say it like that, but their Jekyll and Hyde way of kind of doing things gave them access to so many communities, and it really, I love the strategy of Sugar Water, and I hate to put it like that, but there's no other way to really put it, right? That a lot of times when you do your dead prez, when you go a me route and you just real out and open rah with it, sometimes people ain't trying to hear all that. The people who need it most all they know is being entertained. Their attention spans are conditioned for entertainment. So I know for me, like personally, I'm learning that it's like, okay, sometimes you can't just be rah in your face about what needs to be done. You have to be able to meet people where they are and provide them. I can't come, if I were a doctor, I couldn't come and sit down and spit on my doctor jargon at my patient. I need to meet my patient where they're at. And I think that's something that I'm learning now. It's like, okay, I'm going to start meeting my patients where I'm at. Compromise, no, but definitely like, okay, let's have a little fun, and then let's have a real conversation. So I think that balance is important. But I think aside from that, I know one of the things that's really important to me, aside from telling real stories, being honest and being transparent and vulnerable in my music, which I think music has lost. I don't know the last time I heard a real love song, but I think that's a responsibility that I have as an artist, as a musician, just being real, just allowing people to touch and see my faults and where I miss it, so they can be like, dang, I can relate, and kind of have, something to just let them be okay with being vulnerable, because so often we front and we fake, and it's just, I don't think it's healthy. But also just being a hip hop educator. So it's important to me to pass the craft and to help other MCs, to help other female MCs. The greatest thing for me is to see, one, my peers who are just starting out, and for me to give them advice, for me to provide them resources, for me to, you want to do a verse? Okay, I got you. Whatever is needed. Because I know so often as women, we don't extend an open hand to other women. And that's a problem, because as women, we get frustrated that we're overlooked, that opportunities aren't given to us, that our male counterparts don't support us, but then we don't support us. And it's like, ooh, at least men support men. So I think that that's a major responsibility as a woman in hip hop, is to extend opportunities and open doors to other women and let them know what's going on. And to, when I teach the craft of hip hop, to also make sure it's coupled with the responsibility. And it doesn't have to look like how I do it, right? You don't have to walk around and feel like you're a hip hop activist, but be responsible for your content. Don't try and shirk out and think that, oh, I'm not a role model. No, you are. People are going to listen to what you have to say, and yes, that comes with the territory. So be responsible about it. And in love, of course, And yeah, I think those are the majors. Just being 100 with myself, sharing my story and being honest, sharing the craft and or having a responsibility as far as like how you handle the craft, and being there for other women who are doing this in other ways and pushing them and supporting them and making resources available to them. So
I was really struck by when you're talking about vulnerability, because it seems like what vulnerability meant in hip hop 10, 20 years ago doesn't necessarily mean the same type of vulnerability now. I mean, if we look at Tupac, for example, he was vulnerable in his music in a useful way. Even with Outkast, you know what I'm saying? There's a specific type of vulnerability.
yes.
So the question, that I want to extend to you would be: is there still room for that type of vulnerability in this current cycle of hip hop production? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we reconnect that vulnerability, but yet that access to those types of feelings in hip hop?
Mm-hmm. A lot of people would say it looks like Drake. It doesn't have to look like Drake, and everybody always clowns him for, being the, oh, my man's just so emotional, I'm crying every 2 seconds. It doesn't have to look like that. I think that there a certain element hip hop, you can still be strong, but be real. I think in vulnerability, just be honest. I know we want to escape. I think I'm cool with cats that just wanted to. Sometimes I need to turn up. Sometimes I don't want to be deep. Sometimes I just want to have fun, and that's cool. But I think we're missing options, and I think that that's the problem. I think when hip hop was in its greatest in the 90s or the early 2000s, we had a large pool of options. So like I said, my option was I was in my tree hugging world, and I dipped into Biggie and all of that, but I really was on my tree hugger tip. If I felt light, I wanted to rock out to Light, I could. If I felt like So I'm Pep, I could rock out to them. But now our options are so limited, and I think that we better start being real. We better start being honest, and not to make it a race thing, but let me be honest. If we keep doing what we're doing, we're gonna see a lot more situations where your Macklemores are get all the hip hop categories. And I don't mean to put it out there like that, but let me put it out there like that. When a Kendrick Lamar drops an album like Kendrick Lamar dropped, and Macklemore just gonna get all the Grammys? Why? It's because that was the same year that Trinidad James dropped All Go Everything. That's the same year that, Rick Ross, just all this, I don't want to say it like that. Help myself. It's too much. We need to come to a place where we are presenting different stories, different narratives, different options. And it all can be honest. It all can be real. We can have fantasies. I think it's important for us to have fantasies, for us to see ourselves in certain ways, but we just need balance.
Word. I'm not mad at that. Tell the folks what you know about the new project, where they can reach you.
So, new project is called Pure. Again, it's a conversation starter. It's a catalyst for conversation around how women are identified and just, if we're valued the way that we need to be. And you can hit up www.apuremovement.com as well as www.mahoganyjonz.com. I love Instagram, love Twitter, so please hit me up. I'd love to chop it up with you. And you could do so at the @ MAHOGANYJONZ. And yeah, let's get it going. Let's talk, let's reason, let's have fun, let's be silly together, let's listen to good hip hop together, all that good stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Mahogany, for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with us over here at Outkasted Conversations.
Sure.
We really appreciate you and can't wait to see, I definitely need to just sit down and listen to the Pure Project, but just love everything that you're doing. So salute to you. Appreciate you. I'm Dr. Regina Bradley. This is Outkasted Conversations. We will holler at y'all next week. Be easy.
Yeah.